Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening in my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. And we're live.
Woo!
Woo! Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies.
Indoor edition.
Indoor edition,
Yes.
number 72.
Going to be that way the rest of this summer when we are doing this together.
Well,
it's too hot.
you are pregnant. For
I am
one.
pregnant.
For two, it's what, the temperature of the sun outside?
Yeah. Hotter than the sun.
It's pretty hot.
It's ridiculous.
I think even the devil going down to Georgia right now would
Yeah.
not be too pleased with the heat.
He's happier in hell because it's colder there than it is up here right now.
You know that in Dante's book, the Dante's Inferno, that
Uh-huh.
the devil's actually encased in ice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his legs are. I haven't. I'd have to go back and read the exact description, but it's not what you would.
Expect.
Yeah, it's not him surrounded by fire.
He'd be too comfy.
Probably. That's probably his hell. He's like, oh, it's too cold.
freezing.
Ugh.
Interesting.
These ice cubes around me are horrible. Look at all these Eskimos down
that
here
would suck.
serving me ice. And no offense to any Eskimos out there.
Of course not.
You know. But yeah, no. Dante's like description of hell was completely different from what we think. But yeah, interesting.
Very interesting.
But yeah, it is
Random
hot.
segue.
Yes,
It's hot.
It is hot. So that's the point. It's freaking hot.
Yeah.
The devil would hate it. I think
Anybody would hate it.
it is pretty brutal outside, and so yeah, like we decided that for your pregnancy, you can pull the pregnancy card anytime we're filming.
And we gonna be inside in the air conditioning.
Now, any of the guests, obviously, they have to
They gotta sweat it out.
They got to sweat it out with me outside. But luckily, like we've actually picked up a really cool affiliate program with Liquid IV.
Yes.
And
love it.
I think we mentioned it last show just really briefly, but we've been every morning now for the past, week
or so?
We actually almost 2 weeks now, been sipping some Liquid IV. And
Yeah.
during the afternoon, I've been taking their energy version of Liquid IV. And I have to say, I was a big energy drink person. I'm not a big water person. Just, I don't know. I've never really been. I have to force myself to drink water. So this is to me, I feel actually way more energized in the mornings, waking up hydrated, I guess would be the best
I
term. I row about
1,000 calories
1,000
every
calories
morning.
every morning.
Crazy.
So I think I'm doing roughly like 60 miles a week plus or something like
Wow.
that. I'd have to look at the stats. But so to me, having one of these after my workout is really helping me feel less dehydrated. I feel a little more alive, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Love that. That's awesome.
Big up to Liquid IV,
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, obviously, being pregnant, you have to drink a ridiculous amount of water because the little nugget inside me is just taking in everything that I eat and drink. And so I have to drink like double the amount basically that a normal person would drink. So the liquid IV has been really helpful for me because when you have to drink that much water every day.
You're like a camel.
I am like a camel.
You don't hold it though like a camel.
No, definitely not. But when you have to drink that much water every day, I mean, water's great and all, it doesn't taste great.
See, that was
so this makes it taste great, and I'm staying more hydrated. Yeah. So I'm not like, I mean, even if I drink a ridiculous amount of water, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll still be drinking like this is like a 32-ounce bottle.
Yeah.
And I'll drink the whole thing throughout the night, waking up. But I've actually been doing that less since starting the liquid IV.
Yeah, and I think that's why I always tend to drink like the lemon flavored sparkling waters, because at least there's a little bit of something in there. Yeah.
Something.
I don't know. Water is pretty plain, unless it's like a Voss water or
still water. It still tastes like water. But this strawberry flavor is really good.
Yeah, they gave us some pretty good ones. They gave us a strawberry, a cyberry, a lemon, and then there's the energized one.
And it's all natural energy too, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm digging it. So yes,
there's like no caffeine, so I can actually have that because there's zero.
Yeah. So this is a plug, and the plug is awesome because if you want, you should go get 25% off your order using code Backyards and Bevvies.
Yeah. And
or use the link that's in all of our bios.
Yeah.
So it is hot though, and part of this conversation was talking about the heat, the summer. You know, we've discussed how for years I spent my time in Europe on European festivals, and the heat out there is incredible.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
I mean, weather's crazy. I mean, whatever. It goes up, it goes down. I read an article the other day that like one of the hottest days in Montana was like in 1918 or something like that, and it was like 125 degrees. So I mean, like, could you imagine being back then when like air conditioning and you didn't have all these accoutrements to like fans,
just stay in the water,
ice, and just go lay in.
Find a stream and not get out.
Yeah, like, oh, there's a nice mud hole. Let me go.
I'm just gonna be here all day.
And I'm assuming that's why animals in the wild go and find watering holes and roll around in mud and do all that stuff, is to
stay cool,
stay somewhat cool and hydrated, and drink that nasty brown water.
Blech.
I'll take vitamin, or I'll take this liquid IV water.
Good idea. Good idea. But back to European.
But yeah,
summers.
So we spent a lot of time out there, and being that I'm off the road and on social media more, I've been noticing everybody's over in Europe on these awesome.
How do these people take all these vacations?
Well, I think some of them are not on vacation. I think some of them are working and spending time.
I've been seeing a lot of vacations, and I'm like, dang, that was awesome.
Well, I think a lot of them aren't pregnant.
Also true. Also true. Yeah, I would not be allowed to be on an 8-hour flight right now.
I mean, you probably could. It just would not be comfortable. Come maybe 2 months from now, you're definitely not allowed to fly.
Yeah, no.
You're on the no-fly list.
Yep. Coming up in about a month.
The European festivals are always fun. They're hot. Some of them were rainy. Some of them were annoying. Some of them are just dusty. But
sounds like just a general festival.
But I always loved going to them. The unfortunate part was, you're trying to cram in let's just say 2 months of shows in a very tight window, because you're having to get on ferries, you're having to get on planes, you're having to transport gear off and off of some planes sometimes, or like maybe you have to load in early. So it was always unfortunate because I loved all these cities. And some tours I was actually out there on tour with like a proper tour, so we would have a day, sometimes 2 days off, and so
actually get to experience the city you're in.
Looking at some of everyone's posts, you can tell that they're on the let's get as many shows in as possible, because all you're seeing is
stretching the production budget.
Well, yeah, and it's cool. Again, you get to get some stamps on your passport, and you get to see some airports,
but you really don't get to experience.
You don't get to
any
experience
of the actual cities.
Yeah, and one city in particular I've seen a lot of people post about that have actually had days off, which I'm kind of jealous about, is Lyon, France.
Our favorite.
And it is. I went to the first time I was there in 2010, and I was able to. We had an after tour party or end of tour party there. It was Alicia Keys, and I remember just being like, Lyon, France, I've never heard of this place. I've heard of Paris. And, you know, obviously I went wild in Paris. I went so wild that my only photo of me in 2010 with any kind of like Eiffel Tower or any kind of landmark was the Eiffel Tower was about, I don't know, 20 miles away, and you could see it in a picture of me. And I'm
very tiny in the background.
Yeah, I'm like super hungover. I have a mustache. I have glasses on. You can tell like I'm just like, well,
just dying.
Everybody told me to go visit the Eiffel Tower, and I took the
This is
photo
as
so
close
that
as
way,
I
yeah,
got.
like this is as close as I got. I got everywhere else but the Eiffel Tower. So going to Lyon for the first time, I had no idea anything about the city. Didn't know that it was pretty much had one of the longest running 3-star Michelin restaurants in the world.
Yeah.
You know, like, but we walked around that day, me and a guy named Justin. And one thing that we always did, even before I, you know, like refound my faith or whatever, I would always go to churches. They're just beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah,
over
they just.
there.
I think that any person that however
The
you
architecture
feel about
is
it,
just
yeah,
insane.
yeah, regardless of what the church represents to you, going to see some of these 13th, 14th century churches in these European towns is just magnificent. And I remember going with Justin, and we, you know, walked this long little path, and we're like, I don't know where we're going, but there's a hill and there's a church at the top, and it looks like a good spot.
Maybe we'll make it up there.
And we had good fortune doing that in like Portugal before and a couple other spots, and so we're like, all right, let's venture on this little road, and we did, and it was awesome. And then that night we went out, and I have some hysterical pictures of me just hammered, and actually Justin was dragging me through the streets of Lyon, and yeah, that was my only memory of Lyon for a long time. I don't even think, to be honest, I think I might have gone back one more time in 2013. But I really have to like jog my memory on that one. And if I did, it was on one of these festivals where you come in, you maybe go to the hotel at 8 p.m. You go out for a couple drinks and maybe a dinner, and
not really getting any time off.
Yeah,
during the
you
day,
have a
for sure.
4 a.m. load in because you're the headliner, and next thing you know, you're back doing it again and back on a bus and off to another city.
Yeah.
So when 2017 came around, 18 came around, we decided that well, I had like 12 days off in Europe.
Yeah, I think 10
like 10
days.
And we decided that, well, you had never seen Europe.
Yeah.
And it was probably in our best interest to have you fly out there.
Why not?
And so your European vacation,
yes,
the only European vacation you had taken, started in Cologne.
Yeah, we were in Germany.
Yeah, we started at the Love Lock Bridge there, and we
really
crossed
cool.
over, and we did a little walk through the town. We saw a big church.
We did. We got to meet up with a friend of mine who had been a German foreign exchange student in Greenville, South Carolina when I was like 15.
Yeah.
And we'd actually stayed in touch. I mean, I guess I was like 35, so for 20 years we had stayed in touch. And I literally had not seen him. I'd seen him once in Boston. He'd been there when I was living there. He was like visiting a bunch of places in the U.S. and we got to have lunch together. So I'd seen him one time since we were 15. And all of a sudden I was in Germany and he lived like an hour away.
Yeah.
So we took the train in and we got to go day drinking together, which was awesome. It was so much fun.
And that's a fun city to day drink in too, because, well, it's just a fun city in general. Good food. And then, but they do their drinks different, remember?
Yeah.
And what's cool to me is, you know, we're so used to, we go to a bar here, we order a long neck, or maybe there's like a brew house that you like that serves pints or something like that. But like drinking in Europe is different.
Very different.
It's like a lifestyle. It's not just like going and watching a football game. There's rarely TVs on the wall.
There were no TVs at any of the bars that we went to.
They usually display whatever their beer is outside on a, you know, some sort of placard or something.
Yeah,
you know?
that was the most interesting part, is that you can't go and just order, you know, some places have like hundreds of microbrews to choose from, and you go over to Germany and it's like, okay, this bar carries this brand of beer.
Yep.
If you want a beer, that's the beer you get. You're not going to have like, let me see your beer menu. It's like, no, I'll have a Kolsch.
Yeah.
And they bring them to you and they're delicious. Oh,
Can I see your finest beer? Is it in a leather-bound book that lists them all? No, it's like, I'll take blah, blah, blah beer.
Yeah.
And there they do it kind of cool because they set it down. It's little, what would you say, 6-ounce pours, maybe even 4 ounces.
I think probably at least 6 ounces.
I'd say 6.
I mean, they were skinny glasses, but they weren't like super short.
Yeah, and they're meant to. You're just supposed to sit there and drink them.
Yeah,
like you're not. It's not a sipping thing. They're not trying to limit you. It's just that's the way it's been forever. And so they have that little. As they come by, the lady just has a tray of beers, and she's just like, or whoever the guy. And if you want one, he drops one off, and then he gives you a little tick on your coaster, and at the end of the night they tally all those little ticks up and then they charge you.
And if you don't want a beer, which I thought was super interesting, then you put your coaster on top of the glass, then they don't give you another one because they just come by, like you said, with trays full of beers and drop them off at all the tables where the coasters are not on top of the glasses.
Yeah, and like in the States, when you put your coaster on something, it usually means you're going to go outside and smoke a cigarette,
right?
Or don't drop a roofie in my drink while I go use the bathroom.
Because people pay attention to that rule.
Yeah. But that's where we started your European vacation. We got a little toasty. You actually had no luggage.
No luggage for 2 or 3 days. I washed my clothes that I came over in on the plane in the sink with
I almost
shampoo.
Sent you back.
No, you did not.
It's like, oh god,
such a liar. But I did for 2. I think just for 2 days, I wore the same outfit and I washed them in the sink and then like dried them over the bathtub.
Yeah, and what's always fun to me was the part of the touring that was fun over in Europe was that everybody seemed to really enjoy to go out. It wasn't just like, let's just go out and have beers. It was like, let's go out and actually like see the town, do some sightseeing. It always turned into like this bigger thing. And so that night we all ended up at the hotel lobby bar, remember?
Yeah.
And there was like fireworks. And
we were all outside at the little like beer garden area outside. Yeah. People were everywhere all along the river.
Everyone was
beautiful.
Hungover the next day.
Oh.
I think a few people lost cell phones in the river.
100%. 100%.
But yeah, so we went there, but in the process of talking about places, I think you had always wanted to see France.
I had always wanted to see France.
And everybody wants to go to Paris. And I do think that Paris has some cool things. Like they have a really cool cemetery where Jim Morrison's buried. A beautiful cemetery. There's the place where they put the bones and the they don't even think they do caskets. I think it's like
there's the catacombs.
Yeah, it's like a catacombs. Well, they have the catacombs underneath the city, but then in these like mausoleums, they have that's where the body goes and stuff like that. And they're beautiful though. It's they pay homage to their dead in a different way, and so it's cool to see that kind of stuff. And so yes, Paris has food. It has the Eiffel Tower. It has art. Like the Louvre and
I would love to go to Paris one day.
Notre Dame.
But it's so big and there's so much to see that you really need a lot of time to be there. And I just had no desire to go when there were going to be a ton of tourists there. I wanted us to be able to go and have this was our first real vacation.
I would like to go to Paris in not necessarily the winter, but in
like
the
late fall,
like
or something.
Cooler months where like the trees are changing.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit quieter.
Because it is there is a beauty to Paris, but it's not my favorite city.
Right,
it's never been. Maybe it was because I had to work there. And, well, that's another conversation.
That's another conversation. But then I had also become so interested in Lyon, like you said before, because of the food culture. That is over there. I mean, the number It's one of the cities in France that has like the most Michelin star restaurants per capita, which is incredible. I mean, you literally, while we were there, you could walk up and down any beautiful little cobblestone street and see 3 or 4 Michelin star restaurants on the same street. And it's like, wow, people are obsessed with great food over there.
Well, and as we started to date, and get further into our relationship, you would always bring up like the Bocuse d'Or and all these things that I was always a food person. Like, look, you can get me. I'm excited eating $1 hot dog at a baseball game.
Yeah.
And I'm also excited eating a $400 cut of meat. You know,
sure.
like they're both have their place in time.
Absolutely.
Now, to me though, I never really thought about it. If
Right.
like I saw Anthony Bourdain post something online, it was like, oh, or I saw like a food show and I just happened to be in that city, I would try to go, but it wasn't a die. Like I'm missing out. It was like, oh well, I'll just go get a cheesesteak.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
But when we started talking about these trips, it was like, well, let's take advantage of those things and let's go to these amazing restaurants. And you know, one of the first places we ever got to do that was in New York.
Yeah.
And we got to go to the Blue Table. No, what the freaking name is that place? Dun dun dun. It's over in like by Washington Square.
And it's awesome too.
It's food to table or
farm to food to table. It's farm to table. They have that amazing farm in upstate New York where they source all of their ingredients from Blue Hill.
Blue Hill.
Yes. Oh, it was delicious.
Blue Hill.
Wasted there.
Well, it was like 8 courses and
we did the drink pairing and it was a different liquor drink with every single course. Yeah. I mean, I won't be doing that again because, I mean, literally we would have like a gin drink, a tequila drink, a glass of wine, a beer.
Then we had drinks before.
Right. Yep.
I mean, we went in there a little toasted. So.
Yeah. And then we had that like 45-minute to an hour Uber back to the hotel in New Jersey where you guys were doing rehearsals. So like by the time we got there, we were both just like, I need to go to bed.
Yeah. Good night. But I think all that stuff is fun though. Like I really do. Sure, it's not cheap by any means, but I do think that it's something to be
cool every once in a while, very special something.
Look, if I had $100 million in the bank account, I would eat at Blue Hill every night. Because it is pretty good.
It was delicious. I have to agree.
But there are some that are definitely like Blue Hill is something that was it mimicked normal dinner food. You know, like there was nothing out there that was so opulent that you're like, I could never eat this every day.
Right.
But then the one that we went to in Lyon, that was a little more. Right. That was like for a king.
Well, and the one we went to in Lyon, Chef Paul Bocuse, who died literally like 3 months before we ended up going. He's known as like the godfather of French cooking. And he started the Bocuse d'Or, which is basically the Olympics for chefs like around the world.
And see, I had heard of his name before, but I didn't know that there was like an Olympics thing. I didn't know any of that stuff. And so when you started telling me about this, it was like, well, now I'm kind of interested in it. And you definitely built up the food aspect of it and made me think of Lyon in a different light. Because I had known that there was great stuff there because we had an after show party there. I've eaten this stuff. It's good.
Yeah.
This town is beautiful.
Gorgeous.
So then when we started talking, we're like, well, summer in Lyon shouldn't be that bad.
Oh my gosh. It was so hot.
So you flew over. It was well, and you know the first thing that most Americans or any person who has AC in their house,
oh yeah, there was no AC.
First forgets is that a lot of these European towns are just not about AC. It's not that they're not about it; they're just not the way of life over there. You know, like a lot of the buildings aren't built with vents.
Right. Well, it gets
you open the windows
over there, but it's not usually nearly as hot as it is.
It was like
here
an extremely
in the summer,
hot
and
summer.
we got lucky, and it was a rare hot summer. And we slept with like the balcony doors open and no covers.
Well, and so we flew in from Cologne, which was fun because we went and had like German beers before we landed in France.
We did.
And we stayed in the old part of town. So it's like they have their own Eiffel Tower.
Which was really cool.
Yeah, and the church at the top of the hill is just like beautiful. Gorgeous. There's like I don't even know how old, 1,000-year-old amphitheater that's next to it. The streets are all like rock and cobblestone and, just super.
Such a romantic city.
It really, really is. And so getting there, we were like, okay, well, let's go experience the city on our own. We had booked a table at that Paul Bocuse place.
Yep.
And so that was like, okay, well, we're going to go eat really good here in a few days. And that was watching it. I think we even watched like the Anthony Bourdain episode, like to see what he got.
we did.
So we're like, okay, like this is kind of the way we want to go. Hopefully they're still doing that, because you never know. Like maybe they're changing.
Right,
You know,
right.
It's a Michelin. It's a to hold the
3 Michelin
Michelin
star restaurant.
Yeah, and to hold the Michelin, even 1 star, you have to adapt. Things have to change. There's certain like standards that you have to, So
Well, and usually, I'm pretty sure this is accurate, but usually if the chef of a Michelin star restaurant dies, the restaurant loses a star. And then you have to like gain that back, because obviously like the chef who gained those stars is no longer around. They kept their 3 stars because it's such a top of the line restaurant. It was pretty bomb.
Yeah. But so that day, like we went out, we're like, oh my gosh, it is so hot. We need beers and probably not hot food.
No.
But we went out. We met that couple that was like sailing around the world on their sailboat.
That bar down the street from our hotel. That's right. I forgot about them.
And it is funny because there is more now than ever, more Americanized things, So but in the old town, it was really cool. There wasn't too much.
Yeah.
There was no McDonald's like right there.
No, we didn't see any fast food over where we were staying. Now you crossed over the bridge into that. And it was more the city feel, but.
Yeah. But that day we had a really fun day just walking around, looking at the sights. Did we go to the top of the hill?
Not the first day.
Not the first day. We saved that.
Because we got in like kind of late afternoon because our flight was delayed.
That's right. So.
But we had the mini pasta.
I was just about to bring that up.
Oh, they were so good. I want those.
And like any European city, there's all these little like cafes that try to drag you in. It's almost like a tourist trap, if you've ever seen the movie European Vacation, Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo, they all go to this restaurant in Paris, and the guy's like, he's trying to speak French to them, and the dude's just like, okay, you're an idiot, like you're a dumbass. And then there's a shot that goes to the kitchen, and they're taking like Hungry Man meals out of the boxes and putting them in a microwave, and then
here you go.
they drop a French flag on top, so it's like clearly French food. That's what those are 90% of the time. I mean,
this place was legit, though.
Well, I just think that we got lucky and ordered the right things, because it was
so good.
It was exactly like we probably could have thrown a rock and hit one that served the exact same food. But so we had fun that night. You had your first experience with a late night kebab.
Yes.
And it's not kebab like we're thinking, like on a skewer.
No.
This is like a pita kebab.
Yeah.
Where they shave the meat off. And it's just something different. And we ended up eating
Extra
there
sauce.
every night.
It was our drunk meal every night. We'd be like, let's go back. And by the time we were getting ready to leave, we would go in there and they'd be like, oh, you want this and you want this. Extra sauce. And we didn't even have to order. They would just be ready.
Yep. It was amazing.
It really was.
Yeah. And then the next day we woke up and we went for a nice walk. We knew that we had the dinner later that night. So we were like, okay, we got to go to the top of the hill, come back down, get ready. And we wanted to look good. So, we had I'd brought a suit, which I don't wear that often. You had brought a real pretty dress. And we went to the top of this hill, and I mean, the views are amazing of Lyon, and that's what everybody's posting right now too. So I'm just like, I know exactly.
We didn't just go to the top of this hill.
Well, we trekked.
We like walked up what felt like 1,000 old school stone stairs.
Each one was a different height, a different length.
Oh my gosh, I was dying. I mean, it was totally worth it, but I was definitely way slower.
And we were a little hungover. You had just had knee surgery, a year prior?
Like a year prior. So I still wasn't like 100%. I was close, but
I was like,
that many stairs was a lot of stairs.
Come on. It's not that bad. There's 4 more stairs and we're at the top. I think I kept saying.
And then, that you would keep saying that. And then we'd go around a corner and there'd be 100 more stairs to go up. And I would just look at you like, babe.
Oh, yeah. That was
Thankfully,
fun.
they were in the shade, so it wasn't like we were sweating it out other than the exercise portion of it. But it was gorgeous. And we got to pass through, remember, like all of those really cool old like residential buildings, and I mean it was like being transported back hundreds of years.
Yeah, there's just so much. We could have a whole that whole garden that they've built there that is dedicated to the rosary. There's like
garden
little
was gorgeous.
Gold roses on the pathway
to lead you through everything.
And these are things, though, again, that doesn't matter what you believe. This is just beauty that people took the time to like inlay into the ground.
Yeah.
You know, like they took the time to put these little rose gardens with seating and little fountains and the places that overlook the city that it just show you beauty at a different level.
Yeah, that was really cool being at the very top of that hill.
Yeah.
Because not only was the church gorgeous, but you could look out over the entire city of Lyon and see the river that wound its way through it. And it looked like a postcard.
And that's one thing, the red roofs, you know, it's like you see the red roofs, you know, like it's just iconic little things like that. Because you can, when you say Barcelona, there's certain imagery that pops up. You say France, or Paris, there's certain imagery. You say London, and that's what's cool about these old towns is that the Europeans were so smart in building these beautiful structures that have lasted thousands of years for people to go back and visit and visit and visit. Just imagine the money that has been spent on people just visiting beauty, like because it's free to walk to the top.
Right. Yeah. When we were there, the only thing that we spent any money on was eating and drinking. We didn't like actually pay to do any touristy things. We just and that actually was one of my favorite things that we did the whole time was the one day where we decided we were going to go exploring and we would flip a coin every time we came to a major intersection to figure out, okay, are we going to go left or right?
We just started walking.
And then we would follow whichever side of the coin we flipped and stop at a little bar that we find and cool off for a minute and have a drink and then, all right, let's flip a coin and keep going. Such a cool way to explore.
It was.
And, you know, the city was great. They had a lot of little like historical markers everywhere. So you could learn a lot about the section of town that you were in. And we would just like Google certain buildings that we found interesting. So it was nice to be able to do our own little touristy thing without having to spend money on doing like a guided tour with a bunch of strangers and stuff like that.
Well, and guided tours, I've probably done one in my entire time of travel in the world. And
that was your catacombs tour, right?
No, that one was you had to pay to go down into the catacombs, but
you just wandered around by yourself.
You just wandered. Well, they've like sectioned it off to where you can't make the wrong turn anymore.
Gotcha. Don't want to get lost and then you end up being a part of the catacombs.
It used to be just open. You could go there anytime during the day.
Dangerous.
Yeah, a few people lost their lives.
Yeah, I would
down
say
there in the
so.
catacombs. What's crazy about and this is an off. This is not in Lyon. They might have their own catacombs, I'm sure, but the famous one is in Paris,
right?
And it's right under the city. It's like you look like you're going to like a train station. There's like a little green building, and then you just walk in, and then you go down this set of stairs, and it just gets colder and colder as you go down. And the next thing you know, it's a little like kind of muggy, and you can feel the moisture. And
so wild.
But one of the craziest things is as you walk, you can see that some of these deaths that these people went through were not let's say nice ways of dying.
No.
You know, there's a couple
Horrible.
there's a couple skulls with like bullet holes in them, and like, it's a pretty wild thing to see. But what they've done though is they created beauty down there in death. Like there's like hearts that are shaped out of bone, like, you know, they've taken skulls and made like hearts out of them. And it sounds kind of hokey, but it's actually, in a way, when you think about it, it's like
it's a neat way to pay tribute to the people who passed away and are buried down there.
Exactly. And so these old cities are full of that. And most of the time when you get on these tours, though, you're going to get trapped in the same thing that everybody sees. But if you just take the time and just kind of go down a side road and see what you find, you'll find a bar that you meet a guy that then tells you about a place that then you end up, you know, then, you know, so when you do those movements, when you travel, I think there's a little bit of danger involved because it's unknown, but there's also a lot of reward in that too, because you might be the only one that ends up there that gets to see that. And I could show pictures all day long, but it'll never describe the actual beauty of like
Right.
some of these places. And so, yeah, like when you go to the top of this hill in Lyon, here's this epic view of these red roofed buildings that have been there for hundreds of years. And there's a river that runs through there. And we spent time just like up there. We didn't really, you don't have to do stuff. Sometimes you can just take in beauty and by just sitting there and just taking a big deep breath. And sure, there's a city, so like there's cars and there's horns and there's all the other stuff, but there's still so much there. So yeah, we spent the day walking up this hill once.
Yeah.
And it was a long walk.
It took us half the day to go walk all the way up there, venture around, then walk all the way back down, and then was like, oh, we've got to hurry up and get ready for dinner.
Yeah. And
thankfully we worked up an appetite.
And the dinner part was really wild because, okay, so we show up and here you are, you're going into one of the restaurants that set the bar for Michelin star restaurants, I think. And Paul Bucco, he not only set the bar, food wise, but he also with how they greet you. Like we rolled up and this guy in a bellhop suit basically walks out to the car, open the doors,
bring us inside.
Ladies first. He walks us in, he opens this door, and as you're walking in, you're seeing all these names on the ground of all the people who have won these world-renowned
cooking competitions.
Yeah, cooking competitions, and you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't just like a place. This is
it was almost like a museum, yeah.
Yeah, like this is not only going to be a meal of a lifetime, but this is a memory of a lifetime. And so we walk in, and I think we were, God bless you.
Excuse me, thank you.
We were like some of the first people. God bless you.
We were like one of the first reservations. It was the only way we could get in.
And the last to leave.
Yeah, we literally were, I think, like the third table they seated, and we stayed until they closed.
I do think they thought we were complete rock stars, because from the time we walked in to the time we left, it was nonstop food, nonstop drink, and just experience after experience.
Yeah, would you like to meet the chef?
Yeah,
would you like to see the wine cellar? Things we don't offer to the other tables.
Yeah, we sit down and we're like, oh, this is cool. Like it's kind of quiet in there. Like you said, there was two other tables, and you go to set your purse down, and this guy is like, no. And he shows up with this like little leather chair,
like a little stool
and I'm sure it's a stool in any other regard, but they probably use it for purses and
literally like brought this super ornate, fancy
leather
stool and put my purse on it. I was like, my purse has a seat.
We took a picture
has its own seat.
Yeah. And then shortly after that, we I think we ordered a bevy, and then they were like, hey, do you want to meet the chef?
Yeah. I was of course.
And you said earlier, unfortunately, Mr. Chef Bucco's died. So we knew that it wasn't him, but it still, to be able to walk into...
It was the guy that took over for him, so obviously still very, very talented.
Well, 100. I mean, he's not going to be replaced by
just
me.
Anybody. Yeah.
I like to cook, but by no means am I that kind of cook. And so to walk into these places, it's like someone inviting you into their bedroom. It's an intimate place that where not only is there like things that not everybody should see, but like there's just certain things that's like, if I'm bringing you in here, this is a special moment, It's like, and so we walk in and we're just like, oh my gosh, because it was, for one, immaculate,
and all the copper that was back there. I mean, it was
It was beautiful. It was moving. It was like walking into a church, but for chefs.
Yeah.
It was moving. There was everybody was cooking in like this super beautiful organization.
Yeah.
It wasn't like working at Hooters.
Don't get me wrong. Like watching like a symphony
yeah.
that like works together. I mean, it was all very orchestrated.
Exactly. Like though working at Hooters had its moments of very good organization, I also watched a cook stab another cook on the line,
Oh my. That's intense.
So I can only say that, it's like there wasn't any of that. It was a very organized place. But yeah, so then we sit down and you can order was it a la carte, or then you could order their
chef menu.
And of course, we're going to do the chef menu because that's what you do at one of those places. And there's certain food that I could just not ever do, but I will do if it's part of something like this, because clearly they know a little bit about food and how to make it
Right.
taste, good. I'm not going to go get mushrooms from Kroger and then try to cook them.
Right.
Not my thing. But one of the menu items, we could go through them all, but we'll just stick to
that would take us an entire podcast.
I think we need. There's going to be a point where we're going to say something happened, and that's a whole story on its own.
Yeah.
But we're just really talking about how beautiful the city is on this one. But we'll touch on other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're like, all right, we'll do the chef tasting thing menu. Yeah, we'll get we got like a really nice bottle of like a 2007 wine. I mean, it was awesome. There's some awesome stuff happening. Champagne.
We had champagne, yeah.
Rosé.
We went all out.
Oh yeah, we did go all out. And but one of the menu items, and this is something that I probably would never do, and this is why I was saying earlier, I could probably eat at Blue Hill every night because a lot of their stuff was just very. It felt normal.
It was elevated, but it wasn't something that was like so over the top.
Wasn't opulent.
Yeah, that it's like, okay, I literally could eat this like once and never eat it again because it's like a special experience that you don't need to have every day.
And this was made for the king or the
president of France at the time. Yeah. So Chef Bocuse came up with this dish as a tribute to the president of France who was going to come and visit his restaurant. And I think it's the only dish that has been on his restaurant menu for something like 40 or 50 years. I think this was in like the early 1970s, maybe they had said when that guy was coming.
It's a puff pastry filled with a soup, a mushroom soup.
And truffle.
Not just any mushroom.
Not just any mushroom.
A black truffle.
Mushroom.
Yeah, the mushroom. And I'm not saying that it was like one or two little shavings. This thing was full.
The whole reason that this dish was expensive was because of the truffles. There were so many truffles in there. I mean, every spoonful you had like at least 3 slices of truffles on there. It was insane. And we'd never had truffles before like that.
I mean, I've had like truffle salt or truffle oil.
Not the same. Not the same.
And the thing about beauty too, when you look at a place like this, is it's the fine details in the like the champagne glasses had these little pictures of him because he has a very iconic hat.
Yep. Yeah, all of his dinner plates,
silverware,
like everything had his name on them and his little logo, like just the napkins, everything.
but it was beautiful. It wasn't like taste. It wasn't it wasn't like not classy. I'm thinking of it.
I mean, it was very, very classy.
It was very classy.
It wasn't tacky.
That's the word.
I'm like, it's a T word.
I know.
I can't think of it.
I was like, tasteless?
Having a brain fart. It was not tacky. It was very chic, very French.
Yes, super French. But so, we had that, which was unreal. And I'm not, again, a mushroom person, but it was pretty good. Yeah. And then we had this chicken in a pig's bladder that came out. And it looked like a balloon. It looked like a science experiment. I was like, oh my god.
They literally cook the chicken in this pig's bladder so it like steams it and like keeps it super, super moist.
It was wild. I'm not going to lie.
And then they put more truffles on top of the chicken.
They cut it in front of you. This pig bladder opens. Chicken pops out. It was wild. And then at the end of the night, they ended up asking. Well, I mean, we were there forever. So now we're sitting there and like we're watching people sit down, eat, and then go. And they're just like slowly.
Yeah, they're turning tables, and we're just like, man.
But they're just like, but they're taking their time with us. I feel like it's not like we're not being rushed. They're so yeah. So then they're towards the end of the night, we're definitely a little sauced up, and they're like, "Do you want to come see the wine cellar?" And I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And so they take us into this long hallway that it's hard to describe, but the guy goes, if you notice as we walk from this end to the other end, the temperature gets colder.
Yeah, which is wild.
We're like, what? He's like, well, yeah, it's there's reds up here and whites down here, and this is a temperature controlled, and it's this beautiful dark uplit small pathway. I actually had to grab you a couple times because you were,
well, I had on
back
stilettos, and it was all like gravel, like it was stones. There wasn't like an actual path, so my heels are like sinking.
Well, on the other side, and then there was even deeper stones on the other side. So I had to be like, all right, don't fall into any of this.
I'm like, we should have done this tour at the beginning before I'd had like a bottle of wine.
But what they did is they took us to this back room that I'd seen on Anthony Bourdain's show, and it choked me up because here we are. I don't even know how old those bottles of wine were that we were staring at, but they were these two that were on display that were just
like behind glass.
It was pretty intense, and all I can say is that was one of those experiences that made that city, very unique. And so you have those places in these old cities, and you have them here in the States, but it's not like going over there. There's something different.
Yeah.
And so, battling the heat that day was totally forgotten about by that meal.
Oh, it was so worth it.
And then,
it was like, we earned this.
Yeah, we did. And then I think that night we ended up going back to the hotel, drinking a little bit more. And then we knew we had a long day the next day. So we were like, okay, well,
the next day was our anniversary.
Next day was our anniversary, which, like all these things were happening. And, I had a surprise for you, but you didn't know. Well, maybe you did a little bit. But
I was hoping, but I didn't know for sure.
And it was wild because, for one, I was nervous the whole time because I was going to propose to you. And I had never.
You were traveling all over Europe with this ring.
Traveled everywhere with
that ring has been everywhere in Europe.
It has been to quite a few places. And that drove me bananas too, because I was like, oh gosh. Like, if I lose this
or it gets stolen,
I'll just be tying a rope to your finger.
Yeah, I would have said yes if you proposed with the Minions Band-Aid.
Well, there's no onion rings over there, so I would have been like, So the next day we woke up and, I get this thing in my pocket and I'm like, have this whole plan. I'm like, all right, we're going to go to the top of the hill again. Dang it, she hates going to the top of the hill because now she has to walk again.
Well, your plan was to go to this like garden that you had found on Google, but we couldn't find it.
But the backup was to go to the top again, though, And so I'm like, all right. And we start walking the city, and everything is going wrong.
It was the hottest day. Of our whole trip there.
It felt like we were in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
It was like 100 and something degrees out. The
we were sore from the day before. We were hungover from the night before. We didn't even eat.
Oh, yeah.
We were like, no, I'm so full. I can't eat for a year.
Yeah, and continental breakfasts over there in hotels are not like, it's not eggs and bacon.
It was like, here's a pastry.
It's like, pastries and cheese and all the things that I was like, I don't need to be weighed down any more than I already am. I need booze is what I need, but I'm going to wait a few minutes. And so we start walking, and one of the ideas I had was I was like, okay, well, and again, my American thought process was like, all right, I'll stop at like a little store. They won't have a Walgreens, but I'll find like a little convenience store, gas station, or not gas station, but like a little shop, and I'll get some cups. And my plan was I'd found a beverage house, a Bevvies house, like a liquor store. And I was like, oh, we'll go get a bottle of champagne, and then I'll take her to this park that I found online, and we'll hang our hammock and we'll all propose. And none of that happened.
None of that happened. Not a single part of that happened. Not one.
And so we end up walking, and thankfully nowadays Google, even 5 years ago, touring in Europe was way different. You either had to get a car, like a specific card to that country for cell service, or you just paid an astronomical amount. But luckily at the time, whatever service I had, it was awesome, and I had like LT, 3G, whatever.
I think you had like T-Mobile or something back then because of their international plans being so good.
And there I Googled liquor store or whatever, or booze store, Bevvies store. Boom, popped up this one little, I'm like, that's right up. It was right by the mini ravioli place. We like literally sat right across from it that night, or the few nights before. And oh man, we walk in, and this is another, I mean, we're not going to keep going for too much longer, but we ended up in this very, very famous Bevvies house of wine and champagne.
Well, because the first place was closed.
Well, I know, but lo and behold, that's the way like these amazing things work, though, and that's the reason why it's so cool about Google and just kind of flying by the seat of your pants in these other countries. Is that you end up in some really cool spots. And if we would have ended up walking into that first liquor store, it would have never been as special as it was.
The experience ended up being.
We ended up meeting the guy that is the sommelier. Yeah, that guy. My tongue doesn't work that way. Sommelier for the Bocuse d'Or.
For France.
And it was crazy because like instantly we told him, oh, we ate there. He was like, oh, I like do this and this.
He's like, what wine did you drink? I picked that wine for that menu.
We're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Well, hi, we would like some champagne. And he's like, well, we wanted some rosé. And he's like, well, let me show you this. And he gave us a bottle of like, at the time it was the award winning in all the magazines, and it had all these little hearts that had been drawn on it, and
because it was on the cover of one of those wine magazines over there.
Oh no, hold on, that was the second one he gave us. The first one he gave us was a really, really nice one. And we go to leave, and there's much more to the story, but we go to leave, and I told him, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go propose to this girl, and he's like, oh, this is awesome. He's like, what are you going to drink it out of? I was like, I don't know, I'm going to go get some cups down the street. He's like,
solo cups?
Absolutely
How
not.
dare you?
I think he wanted to fight me.
He was not happy.
He was, you're like, going to drink this champagne out of what? He's
out
like,
of plastic?
Get out of here. Get out of France.
Yeah. Back to America with you heathen.
I think he started to look for a plane ticket for me. But he had a 3-legged dog, remember?
He was so sweet.
The place was just so cool. I'll have to look up the name of it, but yeah, he ended up giving us 2 wine glasses.
Yeah, like
or 2
really
nice crystal champagne glasses, and was like, just bring them back.
Bring them back when you're done. And he sent his shop assistant to go get us ice
to keep the champagne.
Yeah,
so there we are. We're hungover. It's hot.
I wanted to start drinking right then in that shop.
I have a ring in my pocket. Then I have this guy's expensive
wine glasses that we're trying not to break
in a bag. I'm
hiking.
Like, oh gosh, this is like not the way I want to be. I'm like, I think I might have to poop. And so there we go. We start on this adventure down this road, and sure enough, there is no park. Like,
no park.
Great. But like the rest of our trip, we just I said, well, I think we can go this way, and
we just start going uphill. Uphill.
No stairs.
No stairs. Like steep. Like imagine San Francisco type streets, but cobblestone in France.
Yeah, there was no shade this time.
No shade. Oh my gosh. And literally I kept having to stop because of my knee, and I'd be like, okay.
Just keep going.
Just don't complain. It's not his fault. And maybe he'll propose today.
If everything goes right,
just keep your mouth shut. At least there's booze at the end of this for you.
If you keep complaining, this might not go the way you think.
Yeah.
So we did though, but we walked. But you were a trooper. I have to say that is that you stuck through it with me, which you've done on so many accounts, which was crazy once again.
It ended up being beautiful. It was just.
Well, I think that's the moral to this story is that everything that you've stuck with me through, all the hard drama I've put you through and all the junk I've done to you, you've stuck through it, and at the end it's been really beautiful. And there's something very, very special about that. And so we got to the top of this hill, and then the next issue was like, well, now I got to find 2 trees.
Yeah, to hang the hammock from.
Couldn't hang it in the church.
Nope.
Like, hey, do you mind if I use this pillar and this pillar, St. Francis? Like, no, get out of here, kid. We're trying to do church here.
Yep.
And
so we ended up wandering through this like forest area.
Yeah, we went through
really
and
cool.
I had remembered some of this. I was like, I think there's a back path this way, and and lo and behold, Google's an amazing thing too. So sure enough, I look it up. There's a path.
Yeah.
And we end up next to this like nunnery or this
it was
old,
a convent, an old convent.
Yeah,
that had been turned into like a children's hospital or something.
Yeah, exactly. And we ended up stopping on the side of this hill, and there was 2 trees, and hung our hammock.
Shaded and beautiful.
It was shaded, I think was the
so much
kicker.
shade.
Yeah, there was a lot of shade. it wasn't the most beautiful of places where we could stop, but it was nice because it was a little just secluded. It was private.
Mm-hmm.
You could hear kids playing on one side of it. There was magic in the air there. No matter how we wanted to slice it, we had crossed over this really cool bridge that overlooked like this valley. But yeah, and then I proposed, and it was luckily you said yes.
I did.
Then I put you through real hell. Like you thought that walk up the top was hard. No, hi, my name's Phil. I like to make everything difficult until it doesn't have to be. And then, but that there's so much more to that story. I mean, to give it 5 minutes, to give it 400 hours, I don't think I could
never touch on all of it.
I could never tell you all the little details, but it was just one of those things that, you know, now that I'm seeing all these people post about Lyon, it just makes me want to go back, you know. And so looking forward, it's like I am only striving right now because like I'm not touring. Like I'm not gonna tour ever again. I don't want to tour ever again because I don't want to get on a flight for someone else other than myself and this family. And so one of my goals though that I think about on a constant is getting us back to Lyon.
Oh, I can't wait.
Because from not only the food to the scenery to the people to all the little things that Lyon was to us, it was special.
So special.
And coming down off that hill that night, I remember that guy we stopped back by. We made it there before his shop closed.
We're engaged.
He was like, "Oh my gosh, I knew. I almost kicked your husband or your future husband out of France for wanting to drink beautiful champagne out of a plastic cup. Idiot.
How dare you?
I'm that American.
You are that American.
I'm that American." And but what was awesome is then he gave us a really nice bottle of this beautiful champagne. And then we went back to the room and a
bottle of champagne was there waiting for us from our roommates.
Yep.
Congratulating us.
And this hotel was really cool too. It was like small. We had this really cool tiny balcony, but it overlooked the city. So at nighttime you could hear everybody talking and you could hear wine glasses clinking and people smoking cigarettes. You could see that little
Eiffel Tower they lit up at night.
See the little Eiffel Tower. And so we spent the rest of the day celebrating. And drinking, celebrating more.
Yeah.
And eventually, we're like, well, we're hungry again.
Because we still hadn't eaten all day, and now we've drank like 3 bottles of champagne at this point.
Yeah, a mess. I think we had some
we had some snacks in the room, but that
chips
was it.
That were delicious.
Those ketchup ghost chips.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See, that's the
they
other
were
thing
in my time
about
hop today.
Yeah, bomb. But we ordered McDonald's.
Chicken nuggets.
And
Uber
these
Eats.
two, like
12-year-olds.
I don't even think they were 12. Like, it was like a 10 and an 8-year-old delivered it on a moped. I took a photo with them. I was so excited. But that is so cool to me though, and that's why like when I see these memories, it's not FOMO of like the workday. The workday sucked, you know, like sweating it out in a hot field, and you know, gosh,
yeah,
dealing with people who, you know, like for one, they don't want to be there, and they don't want to hear your American accent complain about
how hot it is. There's no air conditioning.
Why is this water bubbly?
Or warm?
Yeah, I just wanted cold water. Where's the ice cubes? But those were great memories in another way. But the memory of Lyon in this new light really does. It hits me hard every time that I go to sit down and work on the project, and I go to talk about the project, and I go to like do all these little things for the future. It's because it's like, yeah, like I don't want to be an average person the rest of my life. Like, not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's something to be said about, I have such a drive inside of me that I want to go make new memories all the time. And part of that is by living and doing things that are weird and hard and difficult, and put myself out there. And that's the same what that trip was. You know, that trip was something that I never thought I would do. Though it did take me time to realize that I was going to get married. You know, like I clearly treated that wonderfully sometimes. But that's beside the point. The point is that without flipping a coin and turning one way down the street. We would have never found that one little bar that had not only did it have Budweiser and Guinness, but it had all these other cool local.
That was the one with the lions, right? The lion statues outside of it. That was so cool.
And then we would have never found some of the Rose Garden places because we did the same thing up there. We would have never stumbled upon that ancient amphitheater.
That thing was really cool. Yeah, if we hadn't gotten lost trying to find the park you originally wanted to propose in, we never would have found this like crazy. And I mean, it was like all stone, definitely hand built.
Yeah,
beautiful amphitheater.
100%. The moral to all of that is that you're gonna get thrown these like crazy curveballs, and that was like here I am doing something that I again didn't want to do, or maybe not didn't want to do, but ever in life did I ever think that I wanted to do it. And now here's all these curveballs that I could have taken as like maybe I should.
Maybe don't.
Maybe I shouldn't. She's complaining.
So glad you did.
She's sweating it out back there. I've never seen a person sweat and so red in my life.
Oh my gosh, and all my spray tan was coming off. I don't know why you proposed to me. I was not cute.
Nah, you were. You're definitely the most perfect person for me.
Well, yes, definitely that.
But yeah, so though that there's so much more to these stories, I wanted to share some of them with everyone because I thought that it's really important that people look at life in that same manner. Yeah. You know, when you go to do something and life throws you a curveball, go enjoy it.
Yeah. You never know what it's going to bring.
Some of it might be completely asinine and crazy and weird and wild and put you through some crazy back alleys. But at the end, when you come out, you end up having some really cool stories.
Yeah.
It could change your life completely. Like I personally have a completely different outlook on France ever since that moment. Though I might have liked certain parts about it, that time in France with you forever changed my opinion of France and makes me want to go back. So
100%.
So to the future, like that's one of the goals that's written. Like I have a bunch of goals written on the mirror, and one of them is, I want to make Lyon not just a place I go every once in 20 years. I want to make it a place I go every 5 years.
Right.
Because it was that cool.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
If you've never heard of Lyon, you've never been to Lyon, don't go. It's our city.
Yeah, don't you dare go there.
I reserved it. I already put my name on it. It says American Phil here.
Right here.
No, but you should go. It's beautiful.
It's incredible.
It is. Walk to the top of the hill, drink the drinks, enjoy the food, the mini raviolis.
So good.
It's a corner place. I forget the name.
Yeah. Something. I'm sure we'll find it on our adventures again one day. Pepe Le Pew.
Le Pepe Le Pew.
That's not what it is.
No? Okay. He was such a stinky character.
He was.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to our chat about Lyon, France. Thanks for joining us inside again.
Yep.
As much as I love being outside and all that.
This is so much more comfortable.
Yeah, this one isn't bad. You can see our lovely tree, probably, maybe. If you're listening to this, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh, you're missing the view. You should go
Gorgeous.
You should go check us out on YouTube. And while you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe.
Yes.
And then while you're on YouTube, there's a bunch of links underneath, and one of those links will lead you to this lovely liquid IV drink here. Well, on that note, thanks, BK.
Thank you, PK.
Thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Backyards
and Bevvies.
And until next time.
We'll see you soon.
Stay safe. Stay hydrated.
Yes.
It's warm out there. I don't know where you live in the world, but I'm sure it's warm there too, unless you're a penguin in Antarctica or a polar bear in Russia. Or not Russia. Oh, what's the place above Russia? Siberia?
Sure.
Cold there, I think, year round.
Maybe.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bottoms up, y'all.